Welcome everyone to today's webinar. This is AI for Grant Seekers, Tools, Tips, and Tricks. My name is David Gates, and I'm the Director of Online Education here at GrantStation. And today's webinar will focus on ways AI can help you during the grant seeking process. But one of the first steps you must take in order to find those grant opportunities is actually finding ones that align with your programs or projects. And you can do so with a GrantStation membership, which is going to help you find funding opportunities for the rest of the year. And right now we're in the midst of GrantStation's summer sale, where you can get a one-year membership for $179 or a two-year GrantStation membership for $249, which is less than 30 cents per day. Tomorrow is the final day of the sale, so you want to act quick and take advantage of that. And I'll drop a link in the chat shortly for that. Now, for today's webinar, you have three presenters. Myself, Alice Ruhnke, and Philip Deng are going to be sharing some insights into getting started with AI. Alice is the president of GrantStation, and Philip is the CEO of Grantable, an AI-powered grant writing assistant. And Alice is going to kick things off for us, so please welcome Alice Ruhnke.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you, David, and thank you, Philip, for being here with us today. There's having responses like this to webinars and these large crowds that we can get really just reinforces to me just how much all of us are learning these new things at the same time and how we're all kind of figuring out this space together. And so that's one thing at GrantStation that we've been really active in doing is trying to figure out where that fits in for the grant professional. And so what we're going to start with today is really looking at those large language models that usually when you're interfacing with AI, you're using a large language model in a lot of cases. And there's a lot of different chatbots that you can use, from ChatGPT or Copilot or some of the other ones that we'll talk about. And so what we're going to, discuss is kind of how some of them are very much similar to each other, how the interface is very similar, and yet how some of them have different unique tools or kind of resources that they provide. So we'll kind of talk through those so you can get an idea how to get started. And then the two tools that really drill down especially into the grant profession are Grantable and then perplexity.ai. And so Philip is here to show us Grantable, which we're super excited about. And we'll also get that chance to talk about Perplexity and how it might be able to help you as you're developing your proposals. So before we get started, we have a quick poll just to kind of figure out which chat tools you maybe have used, just to kind of get a feeling for it. If you've used more than one and tried out a few, go ahead and click all that apply. But just trying to kind of figure out how people are kind of getting into this space to kind of start with. So we have a good 75% of you have already responded. So I think we got all the way up to 80. So you guys are a good group here. So it looks like most of you have used, 75% of you have used ChatGPT. Again, that was the earliest one. So that makes perfect sense that that's what we're out there trying to do. The other tools that are out there, again, we're going to show you how they, again, can be used, how they, again, have that similarity, but where some of their particular expertise may come in, like, for example, with Grantable and how and what they can do for your grant writing. So thank you for that.
And it looks like there's 24% who haven't tried any. So we'll kind of break down
Oh,
some of
I
these
didn't even go
tools.
down that far.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, if
so
you go down
that's
that far, there's
okay.
24% who
Yeah.
are brand new. So we'll try to
Excellent.
break
So
down
this
those for
is
you.
for everybody and
Yeah.
even for you new folks. So one of the things that we have really worked on again over the last year at GrantStation is to really take these tools, play with them, do examples, just try to figure out what's working and what's not working, what will help us, what might hurt us, when we're using some of these tools. And so we always recommend that you just start with using some of the free tools, all of um, uh, those options on the previous slide had free options. And then as you kind of decide that you want to maybe use them more robustly, or that's the tool that you want to use, then you can kind of work up to the paid versions. And so one of the other things that is kind of interesting too, when I first got into this space, was just that my first response was like, I'm too old for this. This is something for the kids to be using kind of attitude. And just so you know, I'm not old, but I do know how to use a card catalog. So if that kind of puts me in a generation. But what when David and I were playing around, that's where we just started with these free tools and then started asking different questions about, oh, could it do this? And let's try it. Oh, could it do this? And so that's why we're constantly learning together. So by using these free tools, again, we just encourage you to get out there, start playing with the interfaces and what kind of results you get back, and what kind of information it's helping you, helping you with the most. And then also just, that kind of gives you that foundation of kind of just understanding, where it works and where it doesn't work, or understanding, how I can maximize the use of the different tools. So David is going to show you a few of them just to kind of get you started. But here's a couple options that he's going to show you.
Yeah. So first, we'll talk about ChatGPT Free and Plus, because as we kind of saw, the majority of people in here had tried out both of those, or tried out ChatGPT compared to some of the other options. Now, so with ChatGPT, you have a couple of different tiers. You have the free tier, which everyone has access to, and the Plus. They have made some changes recently to what's included in their free tier versus Plus, and made the free tier a little bit more robust, which has been great to see. So both tiers have access to ChatGPT or GPT-4o Mini and GPT-4o, which are really powerful, very useful models that are going to be, useful for you kind of no matter what you're doing. With both tiers, you can upload documents for review, which is one thing that I've found really, really useful. It just enhances some of that productivity. You can upload some different documents. You can ask questions about it. You can kind of go back and forth. You can also access the GPT store. Now, the GPT store is kind of custom versions of ChatGPT that are refined for very specific use cases. For example, one that I found that's been pretty cool is actually a logo designer within the GPT store. So it'll ask you a few questions, and it'll design a logo based on what you are kind of looking for. Both versions have access to the web, so you can have it visit a specific web page for up-to-date information. Both can generate some images with DALL-E, so as you'll kind of see throughout the webinar today, all of these images are generated by DALL-E over on the right, which can be kind of useful if that is something you are looking to do. But the big thing with the free version is the message caps. So all of these advanced features, things like uploading documents, accessing the web, using DALL-E, have message caps. And it does vary a little bit depending on how much are kind of the demand at the time. What I've seen with my free account is you're probably going to get about 10 messages every 3 hours for things like using GPT-4o or accessing the web or uploading documents. So you don't get too many to actually utilize. And then you get 3 images for about 24 hours in terms of DALL-E. Once you hit that message cap, it's going to move you to kind of the less advanced model, which would be the GPT-4o Mini, which doesn't have quite as many advanced features, but can still be pretty robust for a lot of people's needs. But then beyond that, the Plus also has the ability to create custom GPTs. So you can kind of create your own GPTs for specific tasks. You can upload knowledge about your organization with those custom GPTs, which can be a really kind of unique way to interact with it. So it can be pretty useful there. Now, when we talk about some of the other options, things like Gemini. So Gemini is Google's chatbot, and the free version, or they have a free and advanced version as well. The free version uses the Gemini Pro model, which is great for a lot of everyday tasks. The advanced one uses a slightly more powerful model called the Gemini 1.4 Pro model, and that's going to handle a little bit more complex tasks. With the advanced one, you also get the ability to use Gemini in Google Docs and Gmail, which is pretty cool. I just tried out their free test a couple of months ago, and it was really interesting to try it out in Gmail and Google Docs, because you can actually interact with some of the materials within a Google Doc, ask it questions, ask it review. It'll give you ideas on how to respond to email messages as well. So some of the advanced features are pretty neat. Now with Copilot, that is Microsoft's one, and their free version uses ChatGPT or some of the models that OpenAI created. The Pro version gives you priority access to some of the more powerful models. You can build those custom GPTs. And with the Copilot Pro, what's cool is it can integrate with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. But this does require one of those Office 365 subscriptions. So those are some of the different tools that you can think about. But when you're getting started, one really key tip that I would really want you to kind of think about is just choosing one large language model chatbot to build your skills. So you're going to get a very similar user experience between these AI chatbots. If you're using ChatGPT or Gemini, they look really similar. Same with Copilot, or Claude.ai is another option. So you can kind of play around with each of them just to see which one you feel most comfortable with, but you do not need to learn how to utilize all of these, because kind of the skills that you build with one of these, quote unquote, big AI chatbots is going to translate to other tools. So if you get used to using ChatGPT or Gemini, when you hop over to Copilot, it's going to feel really intuitive, and you're going to be able to interact with it pretty well. So just to give you kind of a, oh yeah, go ahead, Alice.
Oh, can I pipe in for just
Yeah,
a few seconds as well, David? Because folks are really, our language is kind of confusing people with probably a lot of the acronyms that we're using. So just to kind of go back a little bit, again, when we use these chatbots, there's different companies that have the chatbots that we can use, and those are the ones that David is talking about. Um, when he was talking about, and maybe David kind of explain a little bit of this with the custom GPTs.
yeah.
What does that mean, that you can make a custom GPT?
So with the custom GPT, it's kind of a mini version of ChatGPT, where you're able to give it specific instructions for a specific use case, and you're able to upload knowledge. So it kind of knows things that are upload specific things that you want it to know. So one way we've used it in the past, for example, is building a custom GPT for grant writing, or you could do it for marketing within your organization. And what you're able to do in that custom GPT is upload some knowledge about your organization. Because if you're a small organization, in rural Washington, it's not going to know about what your organization does. But what you can do is upload some documents or some information about your organization so that it can reference that. And that's one way that you can use those custom GPTs. And I think when we talk about Grantable, Philip's going to be able to kind of mention how there's some similarities between each one of those. Makes sense?
Great.
Cool.
Thank you. And then I think we'll have,
No, go ahead.
we'll have also, I think we'll probably go a little bit further, but then there's a lot of the ethical discussions folks want to have, but let's maybe go just a little bit more with the content, and then we can talk about
Yeah,
some of those issues.
because I think once we kind of dive in here and actually look at it, you'll
Yep.
kind of see what these actually look like. So I'm going to jump over to ChatGPT here. And kind of show you a little bit about what it looks like, and then I can also show you about what some of those GPTs are as well. So if you haven't used ChatGPT at all, this is kind of what you're going to get once you sign in right away. And just some key features to be aware of. Over here on the left is where some of those previous chats are. So some of your saved chats are going to be over there. Up here is where you click to start a new chat. And this is where you would explore the GPTs. So if I just click this one, explore GPTs, this is going to bring me to those custom GPTs. So these are customized versions of ChatGPT that you can utilize. So for example, like I said before, there's this one called the Logo Creator. And you can use this GPT. It's been refined to create a logo. So there's lots of cool ones that you can explore here. One thing I would really, recommend for everyone who is brand new, do not worry about these custom GPTs once you are getting started. Just get some practice interacting with it. And we're going to talk a little bit about a roadmap that we recommend later on as you're getting started, because you do not need to worry about these custom GPTs when you are getting started. But then if I want to start a new chat, I just click there. And then what I can do is actually enter in my prompts here. So just to show you a little bit about what ChatGPT can do, I'm going to enter in a prompt. So I'm copying and pasting this one. Now, with this prompt, I am going to say the following. I am a grant writer for Brave Pathways, a cancer support organization in Seattle. I'd like to write a letter of inquiry to potential funders for our Supportive Steps program, which serves children of cancer patients. We aim to support cancer patients by providing tailored support for their children, including meal planning, preparation, rides to activities or school, and academic support. Create a sample letter for me. The goal of the letter is to receive an invitation to apply for grant funding. So what I'm doing in this prompt, just to kind of break it down a little bit for you, is I'm providing some information about, my role and my overarching goal. I want to, write a letter of inquiry. I provided some relevant background information about this Supportive Steps program. And then I gave it really clear directions about what I wanted to do. Create a sample letter for me. Then what I can do is just click on enter, and it is going to create that sample letter of inquiry for my program. And you could see right away that it understands what should be included in a letter of inquiry. So it has things about, our situation that we would fill in, about the funder, and then it's going to break it down. So it's having, what the Brave Pathways does, exactly kind of about the need, which is excellent, and then provide some information about the program overview as well. Alice, any thoughts about kind of what this letter of inquiry looks like?
Yeah. So I do like how it kind of lays out the information. Again, I'm seeing a lot in the chat about, is this plagiarism, all those sorts of things. Again, what we recommend is that you're using these tools as a back and forth, right? You know your programs better than this machine does. So it can help you to write information, it can help you to conceptualize and put things together, but you always want to go back with that give and take of coming back for that editing from your perspective and putting in those unique stories to your organization. But look how quickly it really takes the critical components of a letter of inquiry, and you're not starting with a blank piece of paper. And again, we don't recommend that you type in, one paragraph and then just whole cloth come in and cut and paste this information, that you work back and forth with it.
Absolutely. So you're taking this, you're going to then interact with it a little bit. And there's ways to use these AI tools where you're actually kind of including your information. And I think when we talk about Grantable, that's going to kind of show some people some different ways that, you're actually using some information that you prepared first. So this is what ChatGPT kind of looks like. Just to give you some context with Gemini, if I click over here, now I am on Gemini, and as you can see right away, it looks very similar to what we just did. Over here on the left, it has, these old chats that I saved. Here, I don't have the advanced one, so I'm just using the free version. So I would have to upgrade to the advanced to kind of select the model. But what I can do is then once again, enter in that same prompt about being a grant writer for Brave Pathways. I'm going to enter that in. And it's going to create that sample letter of inquiry for me. And it's going to be a little bit different in terms of actually what it comes up with. But you can see it has some similarities where it's giving some very brief background information, and it's talking about the need, and then it links it with the services that we offer. I didn't provide a ton of details, so it's kind of including information or kind of guessing on what the need is, but it's doing a pretty good job with that one. One thing that I noticed is that it can ask me questions. Would you like to focus on specific type of funder, such as a corporate foundation or government? And you could actually kind of go back and forth and have a conversation with Gemini to tailor it a little bit further. Any thoughts with this one, Alice?
No, I really like that. And I have really noticed, I don't use Gemini that much, but I have noticed at the end, even on ChatGPT, I'm seeing that a lot of it saying like that particular question back to you, how would you like to refine this? And so that's kind of helpful. It's like that's something that we've played with as a tool by asking it to do that, but now we're kind of seeing it do it as part of the
Mm-hmm.
interface. So
Yep.
that's pretty interesting too.
Exactly. So with either one of these, you can kind of go back and forth. You could have it refine that. You could tell it to make it shorter, make it longer. And that's one of the first steps we recommend once you're getting started with these tools is just, not necessarily using it to write a grant right away, just getting comfortable with it, getting comfortable with that user experience, kind of going back and forth. And then as you build up some of that experience, you'll be able to kind of play around with it in different ways. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit more right now. So I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint slides. And we have an additional poll that I'm going to launch here about how have you utilized chatbots in the past. Let me look. Whoops. Sorry, 1 second there. Oh, I need to stop this one. All right, so that one is launched. So how have you utilized chatbots in the past? Some options we have would be things like brainstorming, creating first drafts, editing, generating tailored content, or taking on specific roles, things like act as prompts. So let's see how people have utilized it.
Yeah, and if you have used it in more than one way, please use it as many ways as you have. Answer with as many different
Yep.
ways. Yep. And I think that a lot, in the chat, as people are kind of finishing up their answers, there were a lot of folks talking about data sources and not using data sources in the chat bots and those sorts of things. And that's something that we have found as well. We're going to show you another tool that's kind of starting to address that issue. But that is really true that you don't want it to provide you with that data about your organization or the need or those kinds of things because it just doesn't have that capability to do that work well.
Yep.
And however, in these other areas of using it to, brainstorm ideas for a project or a program, or comparing two projects to one another and finding what might be some major themes, or starting with that first draft and helping it to kind of get some of your initial thoughts down that then you can then go back and, again, work with and work back and forth. It is a great tool for editing, just putting, being grammatically correct, reducing your word counts, those kinds of things. And then again, Philip's going to show you a little bit of that generating tailored content as well through Grantable, but really where you could take previous grants you've written, take your annual reports, load them up for the chatbot to remember, and then start to ask it specific questions about your information in order to get the content that's like relevant to you. And then we're also going to just show you how you can take on some of those roles and ask it to act as a different role for you to help you with, the different components of your application and how you put it together. So, these are all, these make perfect sense that these are the ways that folks are using it. So these are, ways that it really has its strengths. There was another question in the chat just about like, how do I have a relationship with it? But you saw that David typed in that question and then it gave you a response. You could just go back down to that bar below, ask it more questions, ask it to refine the information, and you can just continue to kind of work within that message, just refining the information that you're looking for.
Hmm.
So these are all great roles for you to use that really enhance the work that we do. But it doesn't take over the work that we do as grant professionals. You know, we're not just people who check boxes and answer questions. You know, this can really help us to create the best programs possible and using these tools so that we're not just spending a bunch of our time rewriting things that we've already written, and be able to, you know, develop more partnerships or work with funders or work with our partners and things like that. So
Hmm.
just a few questions there
Cool.
or answers
Um,
there. Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about one way you can utilize it. So, that list was pretty cool. I did notice that Elaine said they just signed up for ChatGPT while watching this and asked her to write my annual appeal letter, and the letter was brilliant, which is great. Exactly what we're talking about. It can create those first drafts really, really quickly, which if you're just getting started is probably one of the best ways to, utilize ChatGPT because it's fun. You can see how quickly it can draft things. You're not just going to take that and use it as your annual appeal letter. You're going to edit it, play around with it, but now you got some words on paper there, Elaine, so that is great. One trick that you can also utilize is these act as prompts. So what you can do is you can have these chatbots like ChatGPT or Gemini take on a specific role. And what it's going to do is kind of emulate the expertise of that role. So, as a grant professional, one of the best roles that you could probably get it to take would be that of a grant reviewer. So all you need to do is say something similar to, take on the role of a grant reviewer or act as a grant reviewer, then provide some background information, provide the text that you want it to review, and then it's going to give you some key tips there as well. So what this would look like would be a prompt such as the one you see on the screen. So for example, I would say act as a grant reviewer working for a funder focused on helping increase access to arts and culture in the Twin Cities. Review the following needs section of my grant proposal. Do not rewrite the information. Instead, provide actionable ways it could be improved to highlight the need for increased art access to youth in the Twin Cities. So what I'm really looking for with this prompt is just feedback. I'm not having it rewrite everything for me. I want some ideas on how it could be improved. So let's jump back to ChatGPT here and see what that actually would look like in real life. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to start a new chat. And what I'm going to do is copy and paste that prompt I just mentioned. Give me 1 second here. So now I have that prompt. This is the prompt I just read to you, the act as a grant reviewer. Then what I did is I spaced. So the spacing can be pretty important just to make sure it understands exactly what to review. But now it's going to understand to review the information below. And then here is a kind of a fake needs statement that I just kind of came up with. Now what I can do is just click on enter. And now it's going to act as a grant reviewer. And it's going to provide some ways that I could actually strengthen this needs section to make it more compelling for funders. So right away, I see some tips, things like include specific data and local statistics, emphasize the cultural richness of the Twin Cities, link art access to broader community goals, which is a great idea, provide examples of barriers, highlight the long-term impacts, incorporate voices for the community, and reference successful models or research. So what are your thoughts with this one, Alice?
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, I liked how, you know, it's kind of telling you the things that you really, you know, do need to do. It really understands the concept of what you're trying to do and using the proper language and kind of best practices around that. So, you know, taking this again, you might have some, you know, it might not address every single one of those, but these are, you know, things that really do, you know, make sense as you would be writing this up.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if you haven't done some of these things or thought through some of these things, they might be things that you would want to include. So, and I love like incorporate voices from the community. Like that's something I'm always teaching when I'm talking about writing and how you make that connection and things like that. So it really does tell you how to do it properly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's just another way you can utilize it. And just for your reference, we went through that a little bit quick, but you see on this slide, there's a link here to chat.openai. If you click this link when you get to slides tomorrow, it will take you back to an example of when I utilized that exact prompt with those exact results before, and you can follow along and see exactly, the um, advice it gave. You could read through that needs section as well. So it's just a way to spend a little bit more time actually engaging with it. So make sure to kind of jump back, check that out. So that's kind of a cool trick that you can utilize. Now I am going to kind of pass things over to Philip, and he's going to talk a little bit more about, a different tool, Grantable, that can be really useful in your grant writing.
Thank you, David and Alice. I have been trying to fire off answers to the
Yes,
Q&A as well, just like rapid fire.
perfect.
It's been really fun. So I also want to address some like a theme that I've been seeing there. But hello, everybody. I'm Philip Deng. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Grantable. I am going to share Grantable now. And I hope David and Alice aren't offended if I kind of say, hey, like, I don't think those chatbots are really the best tool for grant writers. They are really, really cool. And I think for general purpose stuff, for just a quick idea you want to bounce off of them or something, I have them in my toolkit. But for grant writing, a lot of the stuff that's been coming up in the chat box hopefully will be addressed in this demo, this quick demo. So this, are you seeing a Grantable account? Okay, cool.
Yes, we are.
So
Yep.
this is a real Grantable account that I just have set up for this demo. You can create files and folders just like you ordinarily would. And then this file here is an actual grant application I wrote, but then I just changed all the information, but probably very similar to folks, or similar to things folks on this call have worked on. And then this is an actual challenge grant, a challenge award that I was coaching a group of nonprofits to work on. So the first one is the prior grant proposal. Somebody in the Q&A said, what I really want to do is just upload my previous proposals and then have it help me answer future ones. That's the whole idea here in Grantable. So that first one is the prior proposal. This is the new one. So you can see it creates this nice table of contents for me. And then I would come to a section where I would normally work. And now the first key distinction that is almost so obvious, but I don't want to overlook it, Grantable is a writing space. You can just type here like you would in any other sort of word processor. It is not a chat bot, which I think ends up getting in the way as you want to do more and more refinement. Sometimes you want AI, sometimes you don't, and that's what we built Grantable for. So if you highlight the question that you would then start normally typing a response to and press Command J, it opens up the command line. And what it just did there was search the other document for useful information, snippets to answer this question. Another thing I can do is I can actually go into the document, and if I want to use particular sections, I can actually highlight them and press Command C like copy, and that will grab that snippet there and tell the AI, hey, focus in on this section. But let's just see what it does with the auto-generated. And then these are just some quick prompts there, but you can type anything you want. So we could say, answer this in 100 words, and then you'd fire that off and see what happens. So what it did there was just took the prior, the sample document here, and then used AI to help draft this response, and which I could insert below. And then we also had some questions about editing. And so if I said, oh, actually, that's still too long, I'm going to shorten to 50 words. And let's go. And it's 43 words. So I'm going to replace the section this time. So what you can see there is a really flexible way to get started, brainstorm, draft, synthesize information from your account, and then once you're done, get back to the business of writing. Another cool feature I want to show you is in our numbers. You can extract numbers from documents that you upload. And it's kind of cool. What it'll do is it'll look for operating funds, KPIs, all that stuff that is sometimes a little bit of a mess to keep track of. And it will present a labeled list of these numbers. pretty soon, which then you can store in here and then reference from your file. So I'm not sure, hope it's not my internet connection. Let's try again. We've got some raised hands. Maybe there's some questions that I can grab if you can spot some. Well, I'm sorry it's not grabbing stuff right now. I'm going to just put I'm going to do this manually, operating. And then let's just do, some kind of random number here. Whoa, that's a pretty well-resourced nonprofit. So I will enter that. And then when you go back into your document, if you go here and then you do the number, the hashtag, you can actually add in some quick reference numbers. So if you had a proposal that was lengthy with lots and lots of KPIs, normally, I don't know what that glitch was, I apologize, but it'll grab and label all the numbers, and then you can kind of sort through them and just plug them into your new document as well. So that's kind of more or less how it's working. And I will just finish by saying a couple things. First thing is there's this really powerful search tool. So I only have 2 documents here, but once you have hundreds, what you can do here is type in and like any keyword, any number that sticks in your head. I know a lot of grant seekers here are like, oh, I just remember this one paragraph I wanted to use. I remember I wrote about this person's name. You could type their last name and it would instantly find which paragraph and which document. You could grab that and use as source material. So that's one thing I want to highlight. The other thing I want to let you know is within the next couple of weeks, we're actually doing our biggest upgrade ever to Grantable, which is going to basically make it way smoother for you to assemble these little palettes of information that you'd use to paint each new proposal. So when you put in the proposal, what it's going to do is it's going to scan it, look for all the action items and tag those for you just so you don't miss them. Sometimes we do this manually. Right now, some people might bold the text in Word or highlight it. It's going to do that for you and give you the option to just start turbocharging it with AI or just check it off, whatever you want. And then it is also going to allow you to create these little palettes of source material. So right when you're starting, you could say, I'd like to use this proposal or this folder or this paragraph as my sample material. So it'll gather all your source material into one place, and then the AI will keep using that particular pile of text to answer the questions. So you don't have to keep copying and pasting and putting in, it has it there. You can also create multiple palettes within a document. So you can get really specific or really general, whatever you like. I'm really excited about this update. We've learned a lot from our first year of working with this. So that's more or less Grantable. I want to answer one question that I saw. How am I doing on time, Alice and David?
Yeah, you're fine on time right now.
You're doing good.
Yep.
Okay. So one thing I want to answer is I teach a lot of classes on sort of what is AI, especially in the nonprofit context. And understandably, a lot of people are wondering, where is the information coming from? When I type something into an AI, when I ask it a question, if I say, tell me about Taos, New Mexico, that's where I am right now, it will tell me probably pretty good information, general information about the city. Where did that come from? Traditionally, if we asked a search engine, it's kind of looking across Google and bringing up websites that rank highly, that people like. So that's finding real information, real data somewhere online. If we do traditional searches or use traditional software, most of the time it is looking and querying and fetching some kind of data or information for us. In generative AI, it's not actually querying anything. It is all the training took place before they opened the product for people to use. When I asked ChatGPT to tell me about Taos, what it's doing is it's taking my sentence, tell me about Taos, New Mexico, and it's trying to predict what word should come after the question mark, then what word after that, then what word after that, then what word after that. And it does so almost instantaneously with a huge amount of computing power. But what it's doing is math the whole way. And each one by one, the words come out into the result. And kind of miraculously, the answer is probably really good. The more general and widely known the information is, the more likely it's going to be really accurate. If I ask it for something really, really specific or totally fictitious, like tell me about why Taos is the best city in Maine. If it just goes on and says, oh, Taos is the best city in Maine because, you know, the lobsters are the best and blah, 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 blah. We all know that's not true. It's just trying to predict the next word. It's not looking at a database. It's just trying to fulfill my request. There's a chance that it may catch it and say, hey, you know, Taos is in New Mexico. It's not in Maine. Are you sure? It may do that or it may not. And that's one of the areas of sponginess where you kind of really have to get a feel for using these tools. So I just wanted to address how the AI works. So if you are asking it for your information, it's a really different proposition than if you are giving it information to act upon. So if you give it a piece of text and say, hey, can you change this for me? It'll give it back to you and that information will still be the same. But if you're asking for it to be the source of knowledge, it's a lot trickier. I would almost say that's kind of an advanced user kind of course, is once you can understand how it works, where its liabilities are, then I think you can start relying on it a little more to give you information, which then you should obviously check with traditional sources and be really, really vigilant about that stuff. So I just wanted to share that. Last thing too that I caught is just in terms of data usage. It was a question on the Q&A, but because you've kind of addressed the free platforms, I just checked the ChatGPT terms of service. Now, you do own your inputs and outputs, but the terms of service also say that the company can use the content you create, that's your inputs and outputs, to improve their product, to just basically, that's the agreement there. You know, anytime there's something free online, it's not totally free, right? There's a reason Facebook is free. There's a reason Google is free because, you know, they're making money somehow. So OpenAI or any of these companies, the free version, yes, it's to make it easy for you to come in and get an experience, but at the same time, they do reserve the right to use that information to help with their product. So one of the reasons to contemplate using a paid version and to still check the terms of service, if you do have either sort of organizational rules or policies about information security, it may be that you should actually start with a paid version rather than, you know, you can test in the free, but before you go putting in too much proprietary information, you may want to just check those terms of service. So I don't know where we're at, but I'm going to stop there and see if there are there any questions I should?
Yeah, there were
There was just a couple. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'll do one real quick, David, and then you could do but the one I saw was just, can people load up PDFs and Word documents into Grantable?
Yep. PDFs and
Okay.
Word documents. I'll just put Word documents are great. PDFs, especially if there's like a bunch of images and like really attractive visual design, that stuff gets really weird when you try to turn it into text. So the best practice there would still be to like copy and paste the PDF into Word maybe, and just make sure like tables and things are still lining up the way you want, but it does handle them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
and then privacy. Actually, David and Alice, we talked about this before. Privacy. In addition, one of the reasons we think Grantable is advantageous is because you're storing all of your proposals and all that stuff in a, you know, a regular old-fashioned database. I mean, it's very new and it's like high security, but it's sitting there like on your computer, you know, as we have stored data for decades. And then when you interact with AI, you're only sending what needs to be sent. It's kind of like a need to know basis for the AI. So there's the question that you're answering, and whatever context you're sending, whatever you're asking to do, we have to send that stuff. But all the rest of it is just sitting in your secure account. Whereas if you are trying to interact with ChatGPT or Claude or any of these things, and you want it to work with, then you kind of do have to put in your whole document, all that stuff into the chatbot, which is then also not that easy to reference again once you've put it into a chat thread. So some advantages and disadvantages there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. And then there are a few questions about Grantable just for new users. So does Grantable have any like training session for new users or kind of onboarding support? There are a couple
Yeah.
questions related to that.
So yeah, when you go into the account, maybe I'll just share again. There is here in the FAQ and support, you click that, and then in here is a whole knowledge base. This video tutorial basically walks you through a blank account on screen, shows you how to do every single thing from start to finish. And I mean, it's one of those things where once you kind of understand one cycle of how to use it, you'll just get better and better at it as you go.
Great. And then one other kind of follow-up question is for you, Philip. Do you feel that people need to have experience using one of the chatbots to utilize Grantable, or is it they can just kind of hop it right in right away and kind of get started with the free version?
Here's what I'm predicting. I think the chatbots are a really good way to understand how AI, large language models, think. Now,
Yeah.
they're not thinking like us, but kind of in this, I actually think it's kind of close to Googling. So most of us have developed a sense for Googling, how to get the right string of keywords to get to the thing you want quickly. It's not like it wouldn't be easy to explain it to a total newbie. It's kind of one of those things that you kind of get a feel for over time. Same thing with talking with these AI systems. I think the chatbots are really good for general purpose stuff, entertainment stuff. But what I predict is that the most sophisticated softwares out there are going to take specific abilities of the AI and put them at your fingertips, not with a chat interface, but I just need it to do the work. I need it to write something. I need it to reduce something, revise something, extract something. I don't really want to type out to it every single time what I want it to do. So I think it's kind of like I talk about an analogy to light and a prism. So if you shine light through a prism, it breaks it into all the different colors that it's made up with. I think different work, like grant work, you need a few specific abilities. You need certain colors at certain times. The chatbots are like all of it at once. And so I think it's a great way to learn. It's a great way to explore. And then if you feel comfortable, if you find it useful, what I think is if you're a grant writer, if you're an accountant, if you're all these different professions, I think are going to start getting tools built for their workflows that add these abilities in at the right time.
Yep. No, I think that's a great analogy, a way to talk about it. Excellent. So I'm going to hop back over here to let me share the PowerPoint again. And we're going to talk about one last tool here today, which is a tool called perplexity.ai. So this tool can be really interesting because it does have a similar UX to other chatbots. So when you open it up, it's going to look a lot like Gemini or ChatGPT. And it's using some of the models from both OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, and Anthropic, which is Claude.ai. So it's using both of those different models. And what it has is it has a free to paid tier. The free tier includes some limited pro searches, which I found to be a little bit more effective. But what I found really useful about perplexity.ai is it can be an effective research tool because what it's going to do is it's going to cite sources and link to specific pages. Beyond that, it has the ability to kind of focus its search and look in things like academic papers. So this can be really useful in certain situations, if you're looking for things like evidence-based practices. So this is very much more in that brainstorming phase of utilizing AI. So let's jump over to Perplexity, and I'll just kind of show you what it actually looks like here. So you should be able to see Perplexity right now. And as you can kind of see right away, it has, a pretty similar feel to some of these other chatbots. You can, over here on the left, I actually don't have any previous searches, but this would be where those previous searches are. And what I can do is tell it a prompt. So in this one, I'm saying my nonprofit is dedicated to addressing the homelessness crisis in Seattle through specific programs like shelter support, job training, and treating substance use disorder. Could you provide a list of evidence-based practices relevant to these areas? I'm particularly interested in strategies that have been proven effective in similar urban settings. Please include citations to specific studies or reports that detail their impact and implementation. I'm going to turn on the pro search. I get 5 of those a day, so I'm going to practice that one. This one, what I was mentioning before is you can focus the searches. So I'm going to use all for this one where it's going to search across the entire internet. But a cool one is you can do academic, so you can search for published academic papers, which can be a really interesting tool as well. So I found it just a cool one to you do a little bit of research with as you're getting started. So I'm going to click on go here, and it's going to kind of walk me through the pro search. And what I actually really enjoy about Perplexity is that it actually kind of explains what it's doing as it's going through it. So it is searching for evidence-based practices for addressing homelessness in urban settings, specifically related to shelter support, job training, and treating disorders. And it's locating the studies that detail the impact and implementation of these evidence-based practices. And then it is going to list some of these sources. So I have the sources that it's going after, plus 7 more. And then it gives me an answer. So it talks about things like shelter support, a housing first approach, or encampment strategies. And it actually links the specific source that it's getting from. So this one, the housing first one, is actually come from huduser.gov. Sometimes you might not want to rely on that source. It might be a little bit out of the scope of what you're looking for, but this is where it can become that good research tool because you can actually go look at huduser.com and see exactly what it is pointing to. Then it talks about these integrated work skill programs, result-driven contracting, integrated treatment models, harm reduction strategies. Alice, any thoughts about kind of what outputs it's putting here? Oh, you're on mute, Alice.
Of course. No, those are all really great, standard evidence-based practices that one would use in the field. So again, that's where, a year ago when we were first, testing different things, you wouldn't have that reference to go check. So then you'd be like, oh, is that real or not? But now, with Perplexity, they're doing more work to say, well, this is where I got the data. I can now go look and read that article to confirm. But, that little bit of research has been done for me. And these are all, really, really good best practices in the field of shelter support.
Yep. Good. So this is just another kind of use case for it. This would be, kind of maybe in that preparation step of your grant writing. It's not necessarily for the actual writing process, but for that brainstorming process, learning some different best practices. But you can go explore perplexity.ai. Once you get the slides, you'll get the direct link to that. Similarly, like we did before, you can follow this example, and it's going to actually show you the prompt I put in and the exact outputs that came out. So that kind of wraps up the different tools. And now Alice is going to take us through the last couple of slides here.
Yeah. So just for those of you that are, typing in, you will get the slides, you will get the recording. They will be there tomorrow. And you can rewatch it, you can share it with others. So, it's yours to do with what you want. We will be having a 2-hour workshop on September the 5th, David and I, and we will be going through more of the step-by-steps of how to do the different things of brainstorming and editing and kind of all that beginner roadmap where we'll have lots of demos and examples and all that sort of thing. And we'll kind of walk through what we have developed as a roadmap that I think is on this slide. And this is kind of where we'll start, kind of where we started today, talking about those and picking that first one, getting that comfort level to just start to play in the space, then starting to use it more specifically for your applications. Again, that brainstorming, drafts, those kinds of things, then how we can use it to best edit. And like everyone knows that word count reduction is like quite the godsend of this tool. And then how you can, do more of that, custom chat creating if you want to, of entering your information, or, you would be also loading that up in Grantable if you were using Grantable as well. And then again, how can we use it to ask us questions, improve our applications, that sort of thing. So we'll walk through that over the 2 hours with lots of examples and lots of great tools for you guys to use. So we hope you can join us at that session. If you still need a little bit more practice till you feel comfortable.
Mhm.
And let's see. So I think we'll go ahead. We have some time for some questions. So we'll go ahead and pull out some of those questions. Also, remember that our GrantStation membership, our summer sale ends tomorrow. So get your membership today or tomorrow. And if you have any questions in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out to us at GrantStation.
Great.
So,
I did see one
Philip, can
question. Oh
okay,
yeah, that was
go
kind
ahead.
of related to maybe both. Where it said,
Mhm.
what if you are a consultant writing for a number of clients with very different missions? Can you organize and create separate profiles for each? So with ChatGPT, that's going to be a little bit more challenging. There are some more advanced ways you could probably do it. But could you talk about how what that might look like in Grantable, Philip?
Yep. So Grantable is really good for that. Well, actually, I don't. Should I share again or
Yeah,
no?
you
I
can go ahead
Yeah.
and share again. It's okay.
Okay. Let's see. Let me go. Sorry, I get really into the into
It's hard to.
the Q&A. Wait, why is it? So yes, we make it pretty easy. We think here, if you just click on this toggle, I'm a member of all these different organizations because I do a lot of demos. But yeah, if you just click into this next organization, it switches workspaces, and then you're transported into a different space. So that's specifically because when you are dealing with AI, and you're allowing it to be
Mhm.
sort of your preliminary researcher, or even if you're just working kind of, you're tired and you're just grabbing stuff, we want it to make sure that you're staying separate.
Yep. Great. And then I saw one of the question from Diane saying, how quickly can a GPT learn what I need it to know so that it can scale up its offerings to the point where it's really saving me time? So far, translating what I want into something a GPT can understand doesn't really save me time, and it's just annoying. It's faster and less of a headache to just do everything as I always have. But if I could be convinced it could take a couple of weeks or less to get to that point, it might be worth my time. Any thoughts with that one, Philip? And then I can kind of talk about it from the ChatGPT
Hundred,
perspective.
a
Yeah.
100%. I think people are in these early days. We are so early in the rollout of generative AI for the world, and I think it's difficult for us to know to match our expectations and also the hype that people are putting out there with what the tools are actually capable and currently good for. So, in order for you to get the most efficiency out of the tool, I think it's about understanding what the tool is good for and what you still are far more efficient at doing. So, training the AI to know exactly what you need from your entire client library is not feasible right now. It's actually one of the things that Copilot is
Mhm.
promising but struggling to do because there's so much human context that we hold in our heads that aren't in our computers. So, what Grantable is saying is, hey, here's a file system. The better you organize your files, the better you tag your information, the better you're going to be able to find exactly which file or paragraph or snippet to use. That can happen from a person's brain in seconds, and then give that to the AI, where a person would take an hour to smush 3 paragraphs together into 300 words. It can do that in seconds. So if you take, what will take the AI hours, and you flip it down and have the human do it in seconds, and then you take what takes the human hours and have the AI do it in seconds, that's kind of your sweet spot. Is what is the computer good for? What is the AI good for?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think kind of just bouncing off of that, when I've used ChatGPT or kind of uploaded different knowledge into it or uploaded documents for it to reference, the cleaner the document is, the more well organized it is with different headings and spacing, the easier or the better responses I get. So there is some preparation that is definitely involved with each one of those. So go with that. And then I just did see a few questions about kind of the pricing with Grantable. Could you explain kind of the difference between the free tiers and the paid tiers?
Yeah, it's just usage again, kind
Okay.
of like Chat GPT as well. AI is pretty, it's actually expensive in terms of software to use. So free, you just get a limited number of monthly AI, messages. and then starter is more, and then pro is unlimited.
Great. Can it draft grant budgets? That's one thing with Grantable, or is that? Yeah.
It can, but this is probably, we're kind of at time. Math is not something that language models thrive at yet. So if you're talking about a paragraph of text, like a budget narrative, it would be very strong at helping you to rework that while keeping all the numbers separate. But if you're going to ask it to change things and it becomes sort of like a math word problem, then I would not rely on it alone to do that manipulation.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because I've seen that. That's one thing, with these other chatbots, I haven't seen it do very effectively. So that is great advice. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. So it looks like that kind of is our time for today. And that's all the time we have questions for today. Are there any that you wanted to address quick before Alice?
One real quick one. Folks were asking what a GrantStation membership includes, and it includes access to all of our database to find funding sources. It includes everything on our website except for some of our paid online education. And we also have tomorrow a free tour. If you want to come and join the free tour, you can come and look and see the tools and see if that fits, your needs to get the membership here at the end of our summer sale.
Yep, and I'll drop a link for the free tour in the chat right there. A couple other things to note. We do have a feedback form that's going to pop up after the webinar. To thank you for taking the time to help us out by providing feedback. Each month, we randomly choose 3 people who completed the form and give them a free Target Ed session. Completing it should take less than 3 minutes. We do read and share all of your feedback to ensure we continue to deliver the best content possible. And then one final reminder, we're going to provide you with a link to these slides and the webinar recording. These are going to arrive to your webinar registration email by Wednesday of next week, or actually by tomorrow, sorry, by this Wednesday. So you can look out for that. That's everything I have, Alice and Philip. I just want to say thanks to both of you one more time for sharing your expertise. Any final thoughts, Alice, before we go?
Nope. Please reach out if you have any questions. We have info@grantstation.com, or David and I. And Philip is, I put it in the chat, Grantable.
I made a discount code for people today. I should have shared this earlier. Maybe you can put it in the email too.
We can put it with,
GrantStation 24 free month of starter. I should have remembered that.
Nice.
Earlier.
Okay, we'll put it we'll put it in the message.
Visit GrantStation to see our latest online education offerings in the form of live webinars, interactive workshops, and on-demand learning. GrantStation.com, your fast track to funding and online education.